Have you ever held a single piece of paper, knowing that once you read it, your life would never be the same again? I have. And even now, 70 years later, I can still remember how my hands trembled that afternoon. The mail carrier rarely stopped at our farmhouse. Most days, he simply waved as he rode past. But on that bright spring morning, he walked all the way to our front porch. He knocked twice. Mother opened the door. "Morning, Mrs. Brooks, I have a registered letter." Mother looked surprised. "For us," he glanced at the envelope. "No, it's for Miss Eleanor Brooks." For a moment, everyone looked at me. I had never received a letter in my life. I carefully took the envelope. My name was typed across the front, not handwritten, typed. It felt important. Father smiled. "Go on, Ellie, open it." I slowly broke the seal. Inside was a thick cream-colored letter with a blue ribbon printed across the top. I read the first sentence. Then I stopped breathing. Mother frowned. "What is it?" I looked at Father. It's from the State Youth Scholarship Program." Father blinked. "A scholarship," I nodded. "They're inviting me to attend the Regional Academy in Wichita." The room became completely silent. Our little town had only one small school. Children like me rarely went anywhere beyond the county. The Regional Academy was where the brightest students from across the state studied. Books, science, art, music, teachers from the biggest schools. It was the kind of opportunity people talked about for years, and somehow they had chosen me. Mother hugged me immediately. "Oh, Ellie, I'm so proud of you." Father smiled too, but I noticed something in his eyes, pride, mixed with sadness, because he already understood what I hadn't realized yet. If I accepted, I would have to leave home that evening. I walked across the dirt road to Daniel's farmhouse. He was repairing another section of the fence. When he saw me, he smiled. "You look like someone won the lottery." I laughed softly. "I got a letter." "What kind?" I handed it to him. He read every word, then looked back at me. "This is incredible. You have to go." I stared at him. "So you want me to leave?" He shook his head. "No. I want you to chase your dream. They're different things." I looked away. "What about you? What about us?" Daniel smiled. "Our friendship doesn't end because of a few miles. Real friends find their way back." His words should have comforted me. Instead, they made the decision even harder. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the front porch beside Father. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The stars stretched across the sky. The old oak tree swayed gently in the wind. Finally, Father broke the silence. "You're afraid." I nodded. "I don't want to leave you." Father smiled gently. "When you were little, I taught you how to walk. I didn't teach you so you'd stay beside me forever. I taught you so one day you could walk farther than I ever could." Tears filled my eyes. "I'll miss home." Father placed his hand over mine. "And home will miss you." But love doesn't become smaller because of distance. It becomes stronger. The next morning, I finally made my decision. With shaking hands, I signed the acceptance form. Mother cried. Father hugged me. Daniel smiled, even though I could see the sadness hiding behind his eyes. We all believed this letter was opening the greatest chapter of my life. None of us knew. It was also the beginning of the hardest goodbye I had ever faced, because only 3 days before I was supposed to leave, Father collapsed again. And this time, the doctor didn't look hopeful. There are decisions in life that have no right answer. No matter which path you choose, a part of your heart stays behind. That was the choice waiting for me. Just 3 days before I was supposed to leave for the regional academy, Father collapsed again. The doctor examined him for nearly an hour, Mother, and I sat outside the hospital room. Neither of us spoke. The ticking clock on the wall seemed louder than anything else. Finally, the doctor stepped into the hallway. His expression told us everything before he even spoke. "I'm afraid James has pushed himself too hard." Mother clasped her hands together. "Will he recover?" The doctor nodded slowly. "Yes. But only if he rests. No workshop, no lifting, no long hours. If he ignores these instructions again, the next time could be much more serious." When the doctor left, Mother quietly wiped away her tears. I looked through the small glass window. Father was asleep. His hands, the same hands that had built beautiful furniture, now rested motionless on the white hospital blanket. For the first time in my life, they looked fragile. That evening, the scholarship letter lay on our kitchen table. Beside it was my train ticket to Wichita. I stared at both pieces of paper. One represented my future. The other reminded me of everything I might lose. Mother walked in quietly. "You haven't packed." I shook my head. "I'm not going." She looked at me for a long moment, then asked softly, "Have you told your father?" "I don't have to. He needs me." The next morning, Father finally opened his eyes. The first thing he asked was, "Did you finish packing?" I looked away. "There isn't going to be any packing," he frowned. "What do you mean?" "I'm staying. You and Mom need me here." The room became silent. Father slowly sat up despite the doctor's warning. "No, I'm exactly why you must leave." Tears filled my eyes. "How can I leave when you're lying in a hospital bed?" He smiled gently. "Because that's what parents do. We spend our lives building bridges, so our children can cross them. If you refuse to cross, then everything I built means nothing." I couldn't hold back my tears. "What if something happens while I'm gone?" Father reached for my hand. "Then you'll come home. But don't stay because you're afraid. Go because you're brave." Those words stayed with me forever. That afternoon, Daniel came to visit. He found me sitting beneath the old oak tree, the same place where we'd made our promise years earlier. He sat beside me without saying a word. After several minutes, he finally asked, "Have you decided?" I nodded. "I'm staying." Daniel looked toward the fields, then quietly said, "No." I looked at him in surprise. "Not you too," he smiled sadly. "Ellie, do you remember what your father told us? Character is built by doing the hard thing." I nodded. "Then do the hard thing. Leave." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "My father is sick. I know. And that's exactly why he'd never forgive himself if you gave up your future." I buried my face in my hands. "I feel selfish." Daniel gently shook his head. "Dreams aren't selfish. Forgetting the people who helped you reach them, that's selfish. You'll never do that." For the next 2 days, I packed my suitcase, unpacked it, packed it again. Every time I folded another shirt, I wondered if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Mother quietly slipped a small family photograph into my bag. "So you'll always remember where home is." Father gave me his favorite fountain pen. "This built my business. Now let it help build your future." Daniel handed me the smooth stone we had buried beneath the old oak tree years before. "I dug it up this morning." I smiled through my tears. "You broke our promise." He laughed softly. "No, I moved it. So wherever you go, our promise goes with you." The morning of my departure finally arrived. The entire town seemed to know. Mrs. Carter brought fresh bread for the journey. Mr. Jenkins insisted on carrying my suitcase. Even Mr. Harrison drove all the way from Wichita to take me to the train station himself. As we climbed into his automobile, I looked back one last time. Mother stood on the porch waving. Daniel stood beneath the old oak tree, and Father, still weak, walked slowly out of the front door. He raised one hand and smiled. It was the proudest smile I had ever seen. I smiled back, completely unaware that this would be the last time I would ever see my childhood home exactly as it was. Because before I returned, everything would changed. Often ask me, "When did you become an adult?" Some think it happened when I graduated. Others believe it happened when I started my career. But they're all wrong. I became an adult the moment the train pulled away from my hometown, while my family grew smaller through the window. The station was little more than a wooden platform. One bench, one ticket office, one old clock that seemed to tick far too loudly. Mr. Harrison carried my suitcase onto the train. Mother hugged me first. She held me so tightly, as if she could stop time itself. "My little girl, no matter where life takes you, you'll always have a home." I nodded, unable to speak. Daniel stepped forward next. For a moment, neither of us knew what to say. Finally, he smiled. "You still have the stone?" I reached into my coat pocket. There it was, smooth, warm from my hand. "I'll never lose it." He laughed softly. "You'd better not, because one day, I'm going to ask for it back." I smiled through my tears. "It's safe with me." Then, Father slowly walked toward me. Every step looked painful. The doctor had told him to stay home, but nothing could have kept him away. He reached into his jacket pocket. "I have one more thing." He handed me a small leather notebook. The cover was worn from years of use. "What's this?" "My journal." I looked at him in surprise. "You wrote a journal?" He smiled. "Not every day, only on the days life taught me something worth remembering." I carefully opened the first page. In Father's neat handwriting, one sentence filled the paper. Success means very little if you lose yourself on the way to it. I looked up. Tears blurred my vision. I'll treasure it. He gently placed his hand on my shoulder. I know you will. The conductor called, all aboard. My heart began racing. This was really happening. I climbed the steps onto the train, then turned back one last time. Mother, father, Daniel, Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Carter, Mr. Jenkins, nearly half the town had come to say goodbye, not because I was important, but because they believed in me. Sometimes that's the greatest gift a community can give. The train whistle echoed across the valley. Slowly, the wheels began to move. I pressed my hand against the window. Father smiled. Then, he quietly placed his hand over his heart. I did the same. Neither of us needed words. That simple gesture said everything. I'll always be with you. Hours later, the countryside disappeared behind us. The fields became towns. The towns became cities. Everything looked larger, faster, louder. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. I reached into my bag. Mother's family photograph, father's fountain pen, Daniel's stone, father's journal, home had traveled with me. Late that evening, the train finally arrived in Wichita. The station was enormous. Crowds rushed in every direction. People carried expensive luggage. Taxi drivers shouted for passengers. Streetlights stretched farther than I could see. I had never imagined a place so busy. For a brief moment, I wanted to turn around, go home. Forget the scholarship, forget the city, forget everything. Then I remembered Father's words, don't stay because you're afraid, go because you're brave. I took a deep breath, picked up my suitcase, and stepped into the biggest adventure of my life. I believed the hardest part was over. I couldn't have been more mistaken, because the very next morning, as I walked through the gates of the regional academy, a group of wealthy students looked at my worn-out coat, my old suitcase, and my second-hand shoes. One girl whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "She doesn't belong here." The others laughed. I lowered my eyes, gripping Father's journal tightly. At that moment, I had no idea that those same students would one day stand and applaud me. But before that day came, they would make my life harder than I ever thought possible. And that, my dear grandchildren, is the story I'll tell you in Part 6. End of Episode 5.